Lamont better come on here. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to our public hearing board workshop, June 4th, 2026 agenda. Today, we have a special presentation for you guys, and I would allow now for our superintendent to take the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Those of you who are here, those of you at home, extremely exciting time for our school system. 680 days ago, I made some promises to this community about doing something to motivate, recruit, retain, and keep good people in our school system serving in various different capacities. Over the last 2 years, we've worked extremely hard to make the right type of budget cuts, to make the tough decisions in an effort to ensure we were able to do this. And so tonight, we're going to make a proposal to do a couple of things. One, we're going to make a proposal to introduce a new salary schedule. For far too long, 28 years since I've been in the school system, our salary schedule has been extremely complicated and extremely challenging to understand for many of our employees. So we're going to make an attempt tonight to change the salary schedule and do some things differently. And then secondly, we're going to propose our 26-27 budget. So first and foremost, we're going to have our consultant, who's been working with us for about 2 years on this, come up and talk about the salary schedule and the changes that are going to be proposed tonight. So tonight I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Chastity White, who's going to take us through the salary schedule. And then I'm going to present the budget. And then any questions anyone might have on the board, I'll lean on our CFO, Kelly Lopez, to plug in any gaps that I might leave in the presentation. And then we'll go to the public for any questions. And then we will go back to the board. And then we will conclude the special hearing portion of this tonight's festivity. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Chastity White.
Thank you. I guess I'll wait for this to present the... There we go. Perfect. Good evening. Thanks for having me here. I have been working with the school district for a bit here and working on your salary schedules, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to come to this point. I think it's a great plan, and I'm just excited that you guys are going to be able to implement this. So I want to give you some history. I work with a company called Lean Frog. We work with school systems pretty exclusively on things such as compensation studies, organizational studies, efficiency reviews. So we know school systems pretty well, and we enjoy it, and we feel very rewarded by being able to do that. We feel like it's a great space to be in. And these kind of moments are the kind of moments that we really kind of live for, when we know that people are going to be rewarded well for the tough job that they do in the school system. So just to give a little bit of history about what we did, the scope of this project, we did do a comprehensive assessment looking at comparing you to other school districts in your area in the Southeast, and we looked at not only structure, we looked at the peer market and what was happening when it came to how many steps they had and things of that sort in their schedule. So we examined all pieces of the salary schedule. We also took a look at your turnover that you guys had collected and used that as another kind of piece of data that we could apply to any kind of logic that we were going to try to improve. Then the salary schedule, the next step that we took was a lot more of the benchmarking by individual schedules and what were some of the makeup of schedules, what the gap would be, whether it be the dollar amount, the degree amount, any of those things. So we spent a lot of time really marking this as a benchmarking discovery point. Then we went to development of a salary schedule, and that was a very much a joint effort. I worked with a lot of the leadership here, showing them examples and understanding what was really the opportunities, and then we turned that into what can we implement? What's affordable? What is something that reaches all the goals? And I'm going to share some of those details with you as we go tonight. So the first things we saw were there were a good bit of structure issues. You had some inconsistencies about how the steps were applied. So you had as much as $225 for a step to $450 to $1,000 on a step, all on the teacher schedules. You also had differentials for degrees that were all over. I was going to try to give you some numbers here if I could, just for reference. You had, $225, $450, and $1,000. And then, of course, you had a huge differential between, bachelor's and master's at different levels. And you had 54 unique salary schedules that didn't all have the same kind of logic between them as well. So we kind of took a lot of time to also place all your employees on those and make sure that we understood exactly how those had been aligned. So the next step that we took after understanding exactly what was happening in your salary schedules, we actually looked at the documentation and the procedures that were being followed, how these salary schedules were actually being applied and whether there was inconsistencies. And as Mr. Cole said, a big thing was that it was hard to understand, and it was hard to be sure that whatever rules or policies that were intended to be clarity were being applied the right way, but we could find things that were kind of ambiguous in those statements, and therefore the application of those things varied. And we were unfortunately finding employees that maybe had been treated differently because of that. And we did bring those to the attention of the HR team and the payroll team, and it's my understanding that those have been resolved, but the fact that that can happen in something as important as salaries is important to say we need to do something differently about that. You had some inconsistencies in how promotions were rewarded when it comes to what is the structure and what does that exactly mean. You also had just the silly kind of thing that some of the rounding, changed some of the baseline numbers, the hourly rates, the daily rates from published documents into what was actually executed in your payroll system and paid to people. And then we had also some questions about the retiree placement when they come back, they return to your system, because we found some inconsistencies on how that was applied as well. And I should go ahead and mention this 21-year changeover, right? That people would change over from one schedule to another, the TE to TI. Again, the misconceptions on that was just how was the previous experience applied, what actually happens at the moment they get to 21 years. So again, it was never anything that was intentional. It was just that confusing for people. And it was a huge difference between that TE schedule and TI schedule. So it mattered a lot to people to be moved to that TI schedule. So I want to get into a little bit of the details about the comparisons, because we did base a lot of our work and a lot of the recommendations on your teacher schedules. So I'm going to go through a little bit about what that looks like tonight. So a lot of data here, but I just wanted you to know that we looked at Louisiana, Alabama, and Tennessee peers because we didn't want to just do what everybody else is doing necessarily. We wanted to say what's the best practice. So we looked at how many steps that they had. We looked at how many changes in the step schedule did they have, what degrees did they pay for, what was the earning potential from the beginning of the salary schedule to the end of the salary schedule. And as you can see, there was a lot of consistencies here, but there were things that were kind of taken out that we were like, well, maybe we should consider that. Maybe we should look at that. And so that became our foundation for moving forward. The other thing, of course, is we want to be competitive. With teacher salaries, it's very important that these days when we don't unfortunately have as many people going into teaching, we have to hold on to our people and we have to recruit and be doing the best. So this slide here actually goes ahead and kind of spills the beans and tells you what that projected salary would be. But you can see that movement from where you guys are currently ranked, near the bottom of the schedule for starting salaries at the 50, and is moving you up to next to Iberville, only behind Iberville, and be second in your area for starting teacher pay, which is very exciting. Very excited for me to see that you guys are able to do that. And then also you see there's some consistencies of where you stay as you go along too by moving to these the differentials for degrees as well, and being consistent through all of your schedule. Just to give you another perspective there, here's how, even more that you fell at step 10. So that gray is your old schedule, and that yellow is your projected schedule. And then even the ending. So what happens here is that you are at 83,250 right now. We are recommending a 79,330 so that we are front-loading salaries and paying those sooner and early in the schedule. And we also are not retaining that $1,000 step, which is way outside of norm and really expensive to stay up with. So. That's what this next slide too gets a little bit more detailed, a lot of numbers, but what this is to tell you is that you guys had some variation in what your degree values were, and you're in that blue column. And then when you would look though across at the others, you see more consistency, and that means that you can plan better and schedule better, and employees know what a degree change would be worth to them by deciding to pursue that. So consistency on that was something that we were looking for too. So we use this as a baseline for that information. Also, we said, okay, what about step values? What is a typical step value? And again, I told you had 225, 450, and 1,000 in your teacher schedules, and it was all different. So we looked at where you were and what everybody else was doing, and we actually kind of said, let's do something that we see a little bit more outside of Louisiana. Instead of doing the flat dollar amounts, let's make it a more beneficial to, as you stay longer, the more you get by doing a 1% raise. So every year, the steps move by 1%, which is a lot more than what we were seeing here for a lot of the employees. And at some points, you were seeing almost like too much, right? With $1,000 on a lower salary is obviously a higher percentage than $1,000 on a higher salary. So the recommendations, I'm not referring to my notes, so I hope I'm covering everything. But for your teachers, through all of that information, we kind of come up with some strategic goals. What exactly do we want to try to accomplish with the salary schedule? So we definitely wanted to improve the recruitment by positioning you among the highest, right? And we are doing that at this 56. You're only behind Everville, and I don't know that we're going to be catching Everville. They've always paid, at the top there. We also reward that at advancing degrees and tell you what that's worth, so you can make that decision about moving to pursuing a higher degree. Also, we have a lot of compression. That 225 meant that starting salary versus a 25-year salary for a bachelor's teacher was not very far apart, right? So we had a lot, we call that compression. So the beginning and ending were very close together. So you can imagine how much you get at 225 a year. That's not very much of an earning. So we wanted to address that. And we also wanted to be something that you actually were being rewarded for that experience as you go, not just staying the same. So that flat dollar going the percentage. We wanted that to be earlier in the career. So we said, let's ump this up to the 56. So we're starting higher. And then also have a structure that is more easy to understand and that everybody can maintain. And we aren't having questions about, why is my salary this? Is this correct? And questioning those sorts of things. So while being competitive as well. So the recommendation basically started with a competitive daily rate for your 9-month teachers, then applying the 1% across that for each step. We did reduce from 40 to 35. We were seeing lots of that. We can front load this, get the money there at 35 just as well as we could get to 40. Standardizing the degree values, then we did remove the MA plus 30. Like I said, we looked outside of your region to see if we could find some things that would help you maybe change the structure a little bit, but still be much competitive and something that your teachers would feel rewarded with. The other thing we did here was base the rest of your salary schedules for similar situated positions, such as your guidance counselor, your librarians, your social workers, and your curriculum support, that daily rate is now the baseline. So it's no longer a number put on top of the annual rate. It is a daily rate multiplied times the number of days they work. So they truly are getting the same advantage of the 56 change for teachers, and it's applied through all those employee groups. This just shows you a visual demonstration of what you were seeing before compared to the new salary schedule. So the blue lines are the new proposed salary schedule. So you see that, it's smoother line. It definitely starts a little bit higher, of course, than all the others, but also you see that general growth. The red or pinkish ones there, that is the TE schedule, so that's your old schedule. So you can see that distance between what someone was earning on the old schedule and the TE schedule versus the new schedule there. Quite drastic. And then the green is that old TE schedule that started at step 10, but was to reward those with 21 years of experience. So you see how that one is pretty drastic, steep change there, which was a $1,000 step increase that you had going on. So this kind of smooths it all out and makes it a little bit more, across the time, they're going to feel more equitable, rewarding for their years of service. Just because this is a challenging thing when a school system does this, which is change from one salary schedule to a whole new concept and way of doing a salary schedule, not everybody gets the same amount. It's not something we didn't do a 2% or a 4% or anything like that. We actually redesigned the entire salary schedule. So everybody, depending on where they were and also where their experience was, because we did see there was history of maybe some discretionary changes, to what step someone would be. So we also had to adjust everybody back to their experience. So we knew it was an equitable salary schedule for all teachers. And so this slide here just tells you that variance about what the amount that some people are receiving. I think 832 are in the $6,000 to $7,000 band for this change. So that gives a good idea. But you can see there's a few outliers on both sides. And that was more because of where they were starting from. And just to clarify, no employee would be making less than what they were. So if any employee was already making more than the proposed salary schedule, they will stay at their current salaries for sure. So the summary here is that we're talking about 303 teachers, and the projected cost of moving them is 24.9, and 17.9 of that from the general fund. There are only 44 employees that I was mentioning just now who are at that highest step. So they'll retain what they have. They just won't be moving with this because they're already above the salary schedule. So they'll retain their current salary. And the average, I should bring that up, the average increase for your teacher group is $92.77. So $9,277 is a nice raise for a lot of your teachers. So we also took that same kind of logic and update, because your school leadership needs to be strong too and be rewarded and be in line with what your teachers are being paid. So we did use the master's lane of the teacher salary schedule and use the daily rate from that, and I used a index. It's sort of 1.1% up to 1.25 to reward them based on the responsibility differences between the teacher position and those. And again, like I said, it's a daily rate, so the number of days is factored in after the index is applied. So now that we're looking at responsibility, and then we say, okay, how many days are they working? So it definitely ties them to that teacher schedule. So when you give changes to teachers in the future, you're going to carry that on through your school leadership as well. We did acknowledge degrees, are recommending to acknowledge degrees with $1,000 for an EDS and $2,000 for the PhD, because we are basing on the master schedule from the teacher. So here, the next slide is the summary of that cost for you. 2.1 is the cost of this movement, with 1.85 coming from the general fund. And every group here, once again, has some different changes. And again, that's because of where they were currently positioned. And there was no relationship to your teacher schedule. We also rewarded them just as we do with teachers with experience, the same way. So we had a lot of working with HR and teachers and your school leadership in reconciling what their true actual experience was, so that we could reward them appropriately on the schedule. And then for the last group, your support group, you already had some classifications or grades, but they did not have any kind of necessary logic between them. They were just called the same thing, right? And they're grouped together in your salary schedule. What we actually did was actually use that baseline grade. So kind of like how we did the teacher to base the school leadership, we are using the lowest grade in each classification of those support jobs, and then relating them with a 2 to 20% tiered relationship. So from that, you can then move to, so it follows promotion paths, right? So it follows along and has some logical connection one to the other. They also all have the 1% standard increase in the steps, so that follows that same logic that we're following for your teachers as well. And other things that you might want to do in the future is look at some of the certifications and things like that, because that is separate. But this is truly, a way to have a logical explanation for why salary schedule is what it is, and when people are promoting, they're moving from one grade to another within the same classification. So what that looks like at the end of the day, sorry, and I should have said, almost every single one of those, or all but, I should say, of those salary schedules all stayed with your same starting rates. So none of the support schedules did we change the starting rates other than the bus operator. And we did that because we took a look at your peer data to understand exactly what your hourly rate was compared to your peers. And that's on the bottom of this slide here. It shows you that the starting hourly rates from your peers are anywhere from $21.44 to $39.68, and you were at $14.20 an hour. We did a little bit more research and found that, of course, you guys were listing your schedule as that it was 8 hours, although most bus drivers work somewhere between 2 and 4 on a regular day for their routes. And you can see your peers also show 6 hours, 4.2 hours, 5 hours, and 4.5 hours. So we used that logic, pulled it down to 6, which is closer to reality about what hours the bus drivers or the bus operators are working, and upped your starting hourly to $20.50 to get you closer in line with what we were seeing at your peers. So they're the only ones that the starting rate of pay went up in your classified or support schedules. Here's a cost on those changes. You'll see what the average increase here, how many employees are in each group, and it's all varied, so I'll just leave that there. But it does add up to, there are 11 employees out of that first group that are on the highest step, even when we applied all the years of service, and so they'll retain their current rate of pay. And then this group here, so there's 1,413 employees here, and there's 5 only that are on the schedule and above that current rate, so they'll stay at that rate of pay. And then we also looked at your CMP, just a minimal. I think they've had some raises in the past and done well. So here we just try to put them in alignment schedule-wise with everybody else. So this is a 1% salary schedule relationship of growing from the CMP worker to the CMP manager. That sort of progression logic was added to all of their salary schedules. And then the last recommendation that we're making, and it's very important after all the things that we've said and done here, is to actually have some procedures that you can maintain these salary schedules, that they make sense, that they can be applied consistently. And I've delivered some of these to the district here to have them as guidelines. But how do we hire? How do we reward experience? Making sure that methodology is consistent. Making sure that the information that goes into your new ERP system, City Suites, does make sure that we don't have a rounding issue and that things are not inconsistent. So whatever somebody is being entered into the system matches what people have been communicated, that they're going to be paid. And then in the future, it also gives you a approach that you can just add a COLA increase to the whole schedule, and everything moves appropriately, right? So you start it to the lowest position in any of the classification groups, apply it to the teacher pay, and all those groups, ahead of those standards, move appropriately. So then you don't have to go and touch every single salary schedule to get them in line and to move them appropriately. And then the last recommendation is, knowing that you do have those different grades and classifications, I would recommend that you have an evaluation or a reevaluation system that says if a job doesn't seem to be on the right grade structure, or the job has changed, because jobs do change over time, that you have a process to reevaluate and make sure a job is on the right grade and classification. So, all right, that was it.
And before we go to any questions, I want to make sure that I actually read the item, of course, which was the presentation of the proposed 2026-27 general funds budget and the discussion of the proposed 2026-2027 budgets, the budget resolution, and the 2026-27 salary schedule. And so I now handed it back over to Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Ms. White. We're going to continue as the salary schedule is part of the overall budget. If it pleases the board, Madam President, we're going to continue with the presentation, and then we'll go to questions. And so at this time, Ms. Lopez and I are going to tag team the budget. I'm really excited about an opportunity to present this budget to the board and the general public tonight. Tonight you're going to hear about my vision in terms of all of the work that we have done to get to this point. When I sat in this seat, I was given a number of different directives in terms of things that needed to be addressed in our school system, not only relative to the salary, but in terms of the operation of our school system from day-to-day management at the school, so that we could ensure students were getting the right type of supports they needed in order to be successful. We have done an extremely large amount of work learning about best practices in an effort to meet the needs of our students, particularly in our most vulnerable communities where we know our students are behind and need a great deal of support. And so tonight we're going to present our budget, and it's sticking in line with our realignment plan that we worked through and approved on last year and then continued this year. I'm calling it the student first budget, because we have to think about how do we put the right people in classrooms to support our students? How do we have the right support services to support our students? How do we identify the best and the most effective individuals in every aspect of all of the work we do to support our students? Whether it be in the cafeteria, whether it be a nurse, whether it be a bus operator, whether it be a bus attendant, how do we ensure that we are doing the right types of things to support our students? Now, what I want to say is, in a process like this, it's hard to give everyone exactly everything they want. But in a process like this, when we think about all of our employees and we think about the market and how we are performing relative to our peers and market share, we want to make sure we are staying competitive in our efforts to recruit people and bring them back. So we'll start with the revised statute 39-1307, which just basically tells the board what we have to do in terms of publishing a budget. The budget of every local government must follow the revised statute. A future focus budget is our next slide, and the budget reflects feedback we heard from our students, from our teachers, from our families, and from this community. The priorities of the strategic plan, the continued realignment of facilities, and it's implemented with a new salary schedule with a starting teacher salary of $56,000. Now let me be very clear. All of our employees in the EBR school system are going to receive some sort of raise. But we recognize where we struggle is in the recruitment of teachers at the starting salary, and then a retention of teachers early on in the salary schedule. And so what we try to do is make the adjustments so that when we recruit good people, we are able to retain those individuals when they come to our school system. And as we see the market changing in terms of what families are being offered as choice, we have to make sure that our school system is a school system of choice for our families, and this is a step in that direction. The budget timeline. We began the process in January. Now, we worked with a consultant about a year ago who gave us some suggestions in terms of how we should go about engaging the community. And so we listened to the consultant and we followed that timeline last year, and then we followed the same timeline this year, where we met with stakeholder groups, then we held community meetings to hear from the community what they wanted to see in the budget, and then we worked to develop the budget. Now, I do want to apologize if, in fact, there are some who feel we should have come back and had the conversation, and which is why we want to give opportunity tonight for any questions. We're going to give opportunity next week for any questions and responses as we continue to work with our board to ensure that we put the right budget in place so that we can put the right supports in place to help our students be successful. We've met with our stakeholders. We've talked to those we know are interested in us doing the right things, and we are ready to move forward. Now, if you look at the consolidated financial summary, what you will see there is the actual, the revised, and then the proposed. There are a couple of things I want to make mention because we've had this question a lot from those in media, that the budget is $50 million less than it was last year. One of the things I want to make mention to everyone, we got a one-time payment of $42 million as a result of the bond. We're not going to get that $42 million influx of dollars this year, so that's why you see such a large decrease. In addition to that, our expenditures, we're now at the end of the tax plan. You're going to see a lot of activity happening around our facilities. We have Mayfair and Glasgow and Scotlandville with projects, Broadmoor Middle, Broadmoor High School with projects, McKinley High School, WHAM. We have the school in the park, the high school in the south. All of these projects are going to begin activity this fall. In addition to our high school initiative, where we're going to see a lot of work happening at all of our high schools in terms of facilities, athletic facilities, media arts facilities, the performing arts facilities. A lot of that work has already started. We have testimonies from schools where work began in the spring and has been completed on the inside of buildings. And as we continue to move forward, we're going to see that work begin as we begin to address high school football fields, soccer fields, lighting, and things of that nature. So there's going to be a lot of money being pulled and used from the propositions, but they are specifically earmarked to do that work in our facilities. So I want to make sure people understand that the expenditures are going to be pulled from earmarked dollars in some of the propositions in order to provide the services that we promised the community we would provide using taxpayer dollars. Now, if you look at our revenues, and you see that EBR receives revenues from local property and sales taxes, state funds based on the student enrollment, federal funds, and specific programs, and other sources such as donations. So you see the ad valorem taxes, which are our sales taxes, the MFP, which are federal grants, sales tax, state grants, and then federal indirect costs. The revenues include this district receives in order to provide services to students. So overall, 67% of our budget and the district's revenue are come from local sources, specifically the property taxes and then sales taxes. And MFP and LA4 funds make up 26%, and 8% comes from federal sources such as Title I. Title pie chart shows the breakout in the percentage. One of the things I want to mention here is as we seek to provide our employees with a raise, we are going to be aggressive, we're going to be creative, and we're going to commingle dollars in an effort to do that. So yes, we will use our local funds to provide a bulk of the raise, but we're also going to pull from some of those federal dollars that we know we get based on our enrollment counts to do the same thing as well. One of the mandates I've heard from many of you on this board is we have to invest in our people. We have to invest in our people, particularly in the schools where we know we have students who are entering into early grades behind as a result of not having access to early childhood experience. We have to do something to make sure that we are closing the gap and providing them with the right type of instructional support to move them forward. So the revenue highlights. The general fund revenue is projected to decrease by about $10.8 million as compared to the 25-26 school year. There are a couple of contributing factors to that. One being we are not going to receive the $19.1 million from the state. As all of you have seen and perhaps recognized, the governor has put the responsibility back on school systems to provide the support for our employees. So last year and in previous years, we always received around $20 million from the state in an effort to provide stipends. What we saw early on, and what I've heard from many of our stakeholders and many of our board members, is that it's important for us to figure out a way to provide a permanent raise so that we can sustain that over a period of time so our employees would not have to think every year about whether or not they were going to receive a stipend. I am happy that we took the initiative, that we showed the leadership in the state to say, hey, we're going to figure out a way to use our funds to provide a raise for our teachers so they don't ever have to wonder about whether or not they're going to receive an increase. It's ironic that we made that decision a few weeks ago, and then the governor came out 2 weeks later and said, we're putting the responsibility back on the school system. So maybe it was a good thing, maybe it was a bad thing, but for us, it was the right thing to do to support our teachers. The total revenues are anticipated to decrease by $10.8 million from the revised 25-26. To the vast majority of the decrease is due to that stipend. So I wanted to make sure that we made mention of that. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that the responsibility falls on school districts to provide a raise for its employees, because at the end of the day, we can never forget why we exist. The school system exists to ensure that our children are afforded a free, appropriate public education. And when we do that the right way, we should be using all of our dollars to ensure that we put the best and the brightest in front of our students. And we recognize and know since COVID, we've seen a decline in the number of people who are choosing our profession. But we also know here in the East Barons Parish School System, we have seen teachers leave our school system as a result of not feeling that they were being compensated adequately. And this is our attempt to ensure that we're able to do that. Now, the revenue projections for 26-27, as enrollment continues to decline throughout the state and our local area, property taxes are projected to increase by 4% for a total of $247 million. Sales taxes are projected to increase by 7% for a total of $143.7 million. MFP will decrease as expected as enrollment continues to decrease, as well as the loss of the LDOE stipends, and federal dollars are projected to decrease along with LDOE indirect costs. Now, I want to say this. Everything we do as it relates to the budget is about students. We have about 5,800 employees in our school system right now, projected to go up a little bit based on some of the programming we're going to put in some of our high-need schools. But I'm here to say if every employee in our school system was able to recruit just one family to return to our school system, one family, that would be an influx of at least 5,000 more students. So I'm asking our school system employees to first be the ones to champion what we are trying to do to help students be successful and help us to recruit students to return to our school system. And let me be clear, we can't depend on students who've already left to come back. We have to be thinking about how do we recruit new families who are looking for good schools for their children, particularly in those elementary ages, because that is where we know families are looking to find schools for their children and leave them there. So I want to share that with everyone, because when we look at the next slide at our enrollment trends, including charter schools, we see a 4.7 decline. Now, that's in our district when we include charter schools between fiscal year 15-16 to fiscal year 25-26. An important part of the budget is aligning resources with the students we serve. As we review the enrollment trends over the past decade, we are seeing a steady decline. And we know after COVID, we saw a decline in enrollment. This view is inclusive of our Type 1 charters that shows enrollment has decreased by 1,876 students, or 4.67%. Now, when we look at the enrollment trends excluding Type 1 charters, we see a 13.9% decrease between the 15-16 year and the 25-26 year. When we look at the same period of time, but only for our traditional direct run schools in our district, we see 5,151 enrollment decline, or 13.9%. Now, when we look at staffing over time, as you can see, the numbers are pretty consistent in terms of the number of staff relative to the number of employees we've had since 21-22. But I want to pause here and make mention that as we get ready to go into this school year, there are 3 very specific projects that we are working on in an effort to ensure that we are providing the right type of supports for our students. I'm happy to announce that the work we are doing in curriculum, the work we are doing with professional development for our teachers is starting to pay dividends. We're seeing better responses and performance from our students in DIBELS. We're seeing better responses in our early foundational learning centers. In our beginning of the year, mid-year, and end-of-year assessments, we see less students who are being retained as a result of the work we're doing this year. When we talk about behavior and management, we had over 3,000 critical incidents before I became superintendent as it relates to what was happening in school. We have less than 1,000 now, so the work we are doing in terms of providing the right type of supports for our students is working. And as we continue to go forward, as we continue to visit with other educators, not just in Louisiana, but around the country, we are recognizing that there are things we're doing really well, and there are things we could be doing better. So there are 3 programs we're going to implement this year. One is a TAP model, where it's a local model based on NIET, but it provides incentives for our teachers in the area of performance. So when we see growth, and we see our students doing better, teachers and school leaders in those schools have an opportunity to earn more money. In addition to that, the state, because of our investment in the TAP model, has tapped us to be a pilot district for 2 more schools that we are not going to have to pay for, because they believe and we believe in the TAP model just that much, in an effort to help those schools where we recognize if we provide the right type of supports in terms of instructional specialists, mentor teachers, PD for our teachers, and we invest in our people, and then make sure they have an incentive to perform, we're going to see growth, we're going to see development. Next, we're going to implement the Student First Network. We recognize that the TAP model is going to work for some schools, but for some other schools in our district that need a more intense instructional model, we're going to provide the Student First Network, which we presented to you at our last board meeting, which again has an incentive package. Now, I want to say two things here to the general public and to our board. If we just fixed the salary schedule and did nothing else, it would have cost us about $4.7 million. If we just did these initiatives relative to working in our higher needs schools, it would have cost us about 4.2. 4.7 and 4.2 respectively, to a total of 8. So really, when we look at budget deficit in terms of our overall budget, it's really about 10 million, because we're using the dollars to make the investments in programs that where we know our students need the most support. And then the third program that we started last year, but we're going to continue this year, is our foundational learning centers. I'm happy to report that the state is so impressed with what we're doing with our foundational learning centers. They're making recommendations to other school systems perhaps do the same. Ascension just announced that they, if you saw it on the news last night, that they're transitioning one of their schools to a foundational learning center. That's not what they called it, but we recognize the structure, and we understand that investing in early childhood, where we are responsible for pre-K to second grade, is a wise investment, so that when students get to third grade, they can read on grade level at third grade, and the opportunity and the chances of them being successful is greater than if we don't ensure that they're able to read by third grade. So we're going to make the investments at the request of this board, as well as in alignment with our strategic plan, to invest in early childhood, because we know that is an area where we can have the greatest impact. And then we're going to use the other programs to make the type of structural changes at our C, low C, and DNF schools to ensure that we're putting the right type of supports in place. And I'm taking my time going through this presentation because I want everyone to be clear on where we are planning to spend taxpayer dollars in our effort to provide support for our students. So when we look at total revenues over time, inclusive of all of our funding sources in millions, as you can see, going from 21-22 to 26-27, you see the three areas. You see the general, you see the special, and then you see them combined, all funds combined. The chart shows funding sources in different manner to understand the district revenues. As Ms. Lopez and I discussed, people learn differently. So the navy bars show the total revenues received by the general fund for each year listed. The gray bars show the total received for special revenues. And then again, as I said, the green is the summation of the total revenues for the district. So as you can see, from 21-22, total revenue was $790.9 million. As we move forward, the district is proposing revenues of $836.4 million. This is a change from the $50 million, which is a decrease because, again, I said we're not going to have that one-time payment of the $42 million. And then due to the time funding of the bond and the ending of Prop 1, the new buildings, Prop 1, and the increase in salary. So those are the adjustments you see in terms of those numbers. When you look at projected revenues versus net revenues, this slide shows the relationship between revenues received through the district and the total funds provided to charter schools over a period of time. So I want to be clear. We have charter schools in our district. And the first thing I wanted you all to see is that all of the revenues that come to our district prior to us distributing any of those funds to charter schools. This slide includes the revenues of the general fund, as that provides 100% of funding to our charter schools. So remember, when we have a charter school in our district, when those revenues come to us, 100% of what we use to provide the charter schools with their funding comes to us first. So we wanted to give you a slide to show you the projected revenues versus the net revenues. As you can see, from 2019 to 2020, a total of $461.3 million was received and $91.4 million was provided for charter students, and an ending revenue of $369.9 million. For the 26-27, a total of $598.4 million is projected to be received, with $164 million will be provided to charter schools, and ending net revenue of $435.5 million. This equates to 27% of all funding in C. So let me say that again, 27% of all of the funding we receive in our school system is then turned and distributed to Type 1 charters for their operation. When we look at the district initiatives I just mentioned, student achievement, mentor teachers at our DNF schools, 2 additional foundation learning centers, and the dual educators in every class at our foundational learning centers. The employee development, we're looking at the TAP model for our 4 schools and the Student First Network model at Capitol and Glen Oaks High School, respectively, with instructional specialists in our C, D, and F schools. And then on the operational excellence, the Park Forest area plans to modify school start times to support student wealth and health, enhance overall well-being, and increase our truancy rate. So we've seen our chronic absentee and truancy numbers get better, but we are continuously investing in our efforts to do so. Myself and 6 other members of our leadership team, as well as 1 board member, are going to go to Harvard next month, and we're going to study chronic absenteeism and truancy as an issue that we can address. What we have learned across the country in our early research is that most systems are responding punitively to chronic absenteeism and truancy without really understanding some of the nuances and the needs of our families. Some kids don't have heat, some kids don't have food. So there's a much greater issue happening relative to kids being late for school or not coming to school. And so we have to think about how do we address that. And so that is under the area of operational excellence. And then we have to think about the efforts we've made to adjust our start times to meet the needs of our students' health and wealth. Now, the highlights from the proposed changes on this next slide. The district has worked with the consultant who is with us tonight on an entirely new salary schedule, which you all just heard about. The new salary schedule is designed to improve teacher retention, especially for those between years 2 and 10. We believe making these adjustments will ensure. Now, if you look at the slide, where you will see is where the money is being invested in the different areas, from regular education, ESS, debt services, transportation, appropriation, and all of the other areas where we are spending money. And then if you go to the next slide, you'll see the proposed purchase services. Board members wanted to know where we were spending money in terms of our local, state, and federal dollars. So I want to be clear, local, the $22.9 million is a lot of the services that we are providing in terms of health and wellness, some of the curriculum vendors that we have, some of the instructional vendors we have in our system who are providing additional supports to our school system. And then when you look at the state and the federal dollars, those are grant dollars that we are spending, that we receive coming into the school system. So we, in addition to everything we do, we purchase services, and then we receive grants, and we use those grants to provide services for all of our students. So the next page is a breakdown of the general fund budget by the expenditure category, which I just mentioned. So again, people learn differently, so I wanted to show that slide a little differently. Expenditures are the purchases the district makes to provide the instructional needs for our students, and we've compiled the same categories that the district reports to the LDOE with state reporting. Below each category, we have provided examples of what those categories include. For the 26-27, you can see 72% represents salaries and benefits as the district continues to use all funds to align to the goals of the strategic plan. The third column represents the percentage of general funds less the charter school appropriations. In this scenario, salaries represent 72% as well. So the general fund financial summary. This chart provides an overview of the general fund. Revenues and expenditures over 3 important points in the budget cycle: the actual for the 2024-25 results, the revised for 25-26, and then the proposed for the 26-27. So you'll see in this presentation delivered to you a number of ways, shared on our website, a number of ways for those who like to see the information differently. We want to try to adhere to all of the different learning styles as we do in the classroom every day. We are anticipating an ending balance of $18.8 million for a fiscal year and an ending fund balance of $125.6 million. I cannot say again or stress enough, the governor's press conference where he said the state school system has over $1 billion in fund balances, and they need to start tapping into their fund balances to help support teacher and employee raises. And so again, we took the initiative, we stepped out front, we were bold, and we are attempting to do that, and that is what we are proposing to you this evening. The general fund balance summary. Projected unassigned fund balance is $90.1 million. This is an $18.9 million decrease from the beginning fund balance in July of 26. Projected assigned funds are $35.5 million. The total projected fund balance is going to be $125.6 million. Fund balance as a separate general fund revenues is projected to be 21% or higher. The state suggests 7%. This board passed a policy of 15%, and even at the end of this current year, we'll be at 21%. So we're in a really good position to maintain a healthy fund balance. And then the next slide is a breakdown of the current year expenditures by strategic initiatives: early childhood, literacy, safety, security, facilities improvements, college and career readiness, and our compensation schedule. All of the areas that we are proposing tonight are an investment in our school system, an investment in our people, an investment in our students. It's in alignment with our strategic plan that we sat and developed together in the fall of 2024, and we believe that this is going to put us on the right path to be successful. Investing today so we can be able to sustain tomorrow. One of the most important questions we must answer as leaders in this district is not whether we can afford to make these investments this year, but whether we can sustain them over time. A sustainable budget is not simply balancing revenues and expenditures for 1 year. It is ensuring that the recurring revenues support recurring expenditures while maintaining adequate reserves to address uncertainty, invest strategically, and protect educational opportunities for students. This is exactly the approach we are taking with this budget. The proposed compensation package was not developed in isolation. The salary schedule was developed alongside the district realignment strategy. When I became superintendent, we had far too many buildings that were being underutilized. I made some tough decisions along with you. We visited with community members and we talked about the tough decisions we needed to make in order to maintain a quality of excellence that we want to provide for our students. We made those tough decisions. We've seen some cost efficiencies, and we are able to make this proposal on this budget tonight. The proposed compensation package and the sustainability of the compensation model depends on continued execution of those efficiencies and careful monitoring of the enrollment and revenue trends. So we still have more work to do in terms of facilities alignment, and we're going to do that work, and we're going to make the tough decisions, and we're going to have the tough conversations, but because we have to. Our students deserve no less. This budget makes a historic investment of $21.8 million in employee compensation, including increasing the starting teacher salary to $56,000 and addressing salary compression by aligning pay with years of experience. These investments are essential if we are going to recruit, retain, support, and ensure that we are bringing in talented educators that our students deserve. So we're going to put the tax dollars to work. I believe it is important to remember the broader conversation happening in Louisiana regarding school system and fund balances and teacher compensation. Again, I keep mentioning the leadership of our state because the governor recently noted that the school districts across collectively hold $1 billion in fund balances and encouraged districts to put their best foot forward when it comes to supporting educators. The governor's message was clear. Districts should thoughtfully utilize available resources to invest in people who are responsible for educating children, and I agree with them. For far too long, school systems have been criticized for holding significant reserves while struggling to recruit and retain teachers. Our responsibility, I believe, is not simply to accumulate dollars, it is to put those dollars to work in a way that benefits our students, our employees, while maintaining the long-term sustainability of our district. Today, the East Baton Rouge Parish School System has one of the strongest financial positions in the history, with a current general fund balance of approximately $144 million and a projected fiscal year 27 ending fund balance of $125 million. In my view, investing in our teachers and employees is exactly what our taxpayers expect us to do. When we invest in our workforce, we invest in classroom stability, we invest in student achievement, we invest in attracting, retaining high-quality professionals for our children. The compensation plan is not a departure from fiscal responsibility. It is an example of fiscal responsibility. It demonstrates that we are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars by investing them where they can make the greatest impact and the people who serve our students every day. So why do we believe this is sustainable? Approximately 67% of the district revenues come from local sources, including property and sales tax, which continue to grow alongside the economic activity and inflation. As we have seen, businesses are booming in Baton Rouge, people are moving here, so we're going to see an increase in sales tax and property taxes. The district continues to maintain a strong fund balance that exceeds both state requirements and local policy targets. Even after these investments, our projected fund balance remain at 21% of annual revenues compared to the 7.5% by the state and the 15% target by the district. In addition, we continue to align resources with enrollment trends through our realignment strategy and positioning the district to benefit from local revenue growth in 2028 when our parish-wide property reassessment. So in 2028, as you all know, we go back out for a proposition, and we are anticipating increased revenues again. So over a period of time, we're going to see increase in sales tax, increase in property tax, and then an increase in our proposition. We recognize that this is an opportunity for sustainability. The bottom line is the budget reflects the financial stability and employee investment and not competing priorities. They are complementary priorities. We can be fiscally responsible while investing in our people. We can maintain strong reserves while improving compensation, and we can honor the trust the taxpayers have put in us by ensuring that all of their dollars directly support student success. And this budget does exactly that. It protects the district's long-term financial health while making a historic investment in our employees, our classrooms, and our students. This is what responsibility stewardship looks like. This is what sustainability looks like, and that is what our children deserve. Now, for me, this is extremely scary. This is extremely challenging. I am extremely nervous because I recognize that everyone will not get everything they want. But a wise man once told me, see it through. When you're up against the trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a brace. When it's vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. See it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with troubles you're beset. But remember, we are facing just what other districts have met. We may fail but fall still fighting. We should never give up, whatever we do. Eyes front, head high to the ceiling. We have to see it through. Our children deserve no less. I want to address a few rumors that I've heard from a number of different people. Number one, all of our employees are going to get a raise. If we could give more, we would. But taking into consideration how do we use these dollars, we're going to provide our employees with the raise where we think it's going to have the greatest impact on our students. So we recognize that a starting teacher salary is where we can have the greatest impact, and then the retaining of those teachers between years 2 and 10. Next thing I want to address is how we are going to treat our bus operators. When we look at market share, when we look at our peers, we have developed a structure we believe is going to compensate our bus drivers in a way that they deserve to be compensated and give all of them an opportunity to make additional funds. So it's an interesting conversation to have, and I'm going to attempt to address some of what I've heard now for our bus operators. Number one, currently we're paying our bus operators $14.50 an hour for 8 hours a day. Most of our bus drivers or bus operators work 4 hours a day and are paid for 8 hours at $14.50 an hour. And if they run an extra route, we pay them $10.50, except during the summertime. If they run an extra route, they are paid for $18. What we are attempting to do now is pay our bus drivers $20.50 an hour for 6 hours a day. But that does not mean they don't have an opportunity to work more than 6 hours. In my conversations with our transportation department and transportation leadership, any employee who works more than 6 hours will still make the $20.50 an hour. Any employee who runs an extra route will still make the $20.50 an hour. Any part-time bus operator who runs an extra route will make $20.50 an hour, and any part-time bus operator who drives part-time will make $20.50 an hour. I understand that this doesn't satisfy the desires of everyone, but I want to be clear. In our school system, we have to think about equity, we have to think about market share, we have to think about making an attempt to be fair to all of our employees. And so as we work to do this, we have to think about how do we compensate fairly all of the employees based on our peers, market share, what the market can bear, and the types of investments we can make. My pledge to everyone is when we can, where we can, make different and better investments, we will. But today, this is the investment that we believe we need to make in order to be competitive, in order to recruit families, in order to compensate our employees at a rate that we believe value and shows value for them. And so this is the attempt, this is the budget that we are proposing to do that. Now, I know it doesn't satisfy everything that everyone wants, but I also recognize we have to do something now. We have to do something now, or we're going to continue, as one board member said to me last week, we're going to continue to see decreases in enrollment. We're going to continue to see a decline in the services that we're offering. We're going to continue to see families leaving our school system to go to other parishes. We're going to continue to see families leave our city and move to neighboring parishes. And so we have to be leaders in terms of this work. And so for me, this is a budget that I believe puts us in a good place this year. And as we continue to grow, as we continue to get better, as we continue to see our students do better, we're going to continue to see families choose EBR school system as their system of choice. And when we see more families engage, when we see more families choose us, we can see more revenues and more expenditures as we continue. One of the most important factors for anyone choosing to move to a city is whether or not they have a good public school system. We have a new superintendent of BREC, and he was going to choose to send his children to a private school until we had a conversation. And I said to him, just give us a chance. Go visit one of our high schools. Go visit with a few of our football coaches. Go ask a lot of questions and talk about what it is that you want for your child, what it is that you want for your children. And then after you've had those conversations, if you don't think we have what your children need, I understand the decision. But at a minimum, give us a chance. And so I wanted to address some of those rumors, some of what I've heard, and I want to explain where we are and what we think is best for our employees across the board. And I don't want people to think we make these decisions in isolation. We make them in an effort to do what we believe to be best for all of our students, to be best for all of our employees, to treat them with respect, to show value. And where we can and when we can, I know that this board is committing to do more. But tonight, this is our proposed budget for the evening. And with that, Kelly, did I miss anything?
Sir, I couldn't be more proud of you.
Thank you very much.
You forgot to be brief.
I like that one, man.
Well, thank you very much. Thank the board very much. Sincerely appreciate it. We'll entertain any questions at this time.
Okay, so we do have some public comments, and our first public comment is by Ms. Robin Clark. I know, they have comments. Comments?
No, it's a public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. My name is Robin Clark. I'm a teacher here in East Baton Rouge Parish, a proud teacher. And I would like to say I want to thank each one of you individually and collectively for the work that you've done, for the firm that you have hired to do the work. It's not easy doing what you're doing, but I appreciate the effort that you have set your hand to do, and I believe in what you're doing. As a teacher, I've invested my career here in East Baton Rouge Parish and in this city, and I believe that every single child that we serve deserves to have a great teacher in front of them. And I believe that the work that you're doing in giving compensation to our teachers across the board, whether it be little or much, is greatly needed. I work with a teacher who had to, a new teacher, a great teacher, who had to take a second job at a cookie store because she couldn't make ends meet. This makes a difference in the work that she's doing that makes instrumental movement in the academics performance of some of the children on our campus. I can talk to you about other people whose income bracket is now changing. They don't have to do a second job, a third job. They can actually have a livable wage, and they can actually go to work happy and not have to think about gas, the money that they have to put on gas, and the expenses and the change outs that they have to make because their money is low. And it makes a difference. We don't do this because we love. We already serve. We're giving more than what we have. But we're doing this because we have a passion and we have a purpose. But we should be fairly compensated. And this is trying to right a wrong that's gone for so long. And I appreciate it and thank each one of you for setting your hand to the plow to do the work. Thank you so very much for everyone.
Thank you. Next, we have Storm Matthews.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions from the presentation, and then I do have my comments that I've already had. When the consultant was presenting, she said that for the people that the salary schedule had a lower salary for, they would stay at their salary. So that would be the executive secretaries, the vast majority of them. But then, Mr. Cole, you said everybody's getting a raise. So for the executive secretaries, we kind of need to know which one that is. Because without them, schools don't run. You know, principals can't principal, teachers can't teach, executive secretaries run everything. They are very, very important. And for if the part-time bus drivers will be paid $20.50, because there's about 5 of them that they're not teachers, they're not cafeteria workers, they're not working here in central office. They truly are just part-time workers who in about August or September, one of them, this board took them from $13.29 up to $18 an hour. On page 36, line in the salary schedule, the line says part-time bus operator. I challenge the board, if they are going to be paid $20.50, that this board needs to require that line say $20.50 and not $13.29. Because if you pass this budget where it says $13.29, you give those part-time bus operators nothing to go on, because the legal item says $13.29. It needs to say $20.50 if that is what they are to be paid. I do want to say overall, this budget seems to have been created with sincere intent. I commend Mr. Cole for pushing through, because he very well could have said, you know what, it's hard to get all of these raises through. We're running out of time. We'll do it next year. But he didn't do that. He pushed. He did what he had to do, and I commend him for that. You can't control teacher leader, and when that is, I do have an issue with the fact that there were not the community meetings, but that's not on Mr. Cole. That's on the board leadership. And that's why there are so many questions from the community about when or who's getting what, and nobody understands the steps. So I'm really glad that they are simplifying the steps, because that is going to truly help people understand what their salary is. Because right now we have to check Finney's monthly public records request to see who's on what step and who's getting what. So that is a lot of the confusion. So that is a really good thing as well.
Thank you. Next, we have Catherine, I think it's Wolfers. I'm sorry, okay.
My name is Catherine Woolfolk, and I've been here 15 years. I'm making $16 an hour. Y'all want to raise me to 20, but take 2 hours away from me? I'm not making nothing. I'm making the same thing I was making before y'all even decided I'm going to get a raise. Would you take that? Be honest. You give me something, and then you take it back. Where they do that at? You don't do that to us. I work hard. I drive an extra route and work another job. Because I'm still at 16, after 15 years, I'm still at $16 an hour. You want to raise me to 20 and take 2 hours away from me. So you're raising me to 20, taking 2 hours back each day. Yes, sir.
I want to address your question real quickly. Right now, you make more than the $14.50 starting pay, correct?
Right.
So you're going to make more than the $20.50 starting pay.
Even if it's 23, it's $23.10.
So
I looked at it. I got it in my thing.
I just wanted to be sure that we were saying the same thing.
That's right. $23.10, right? That's what I'm going to make an hour. You're going to pay me 6 hours. But you're going to take 2 extra. Let me stay where I'm at. Let me just get my step up with the state. Don't give me that raise y'all talking about, and let me make my 8 hours.
Thank you. Mr. Harold Greer.
Good evening. My name is Harold Greer. I am the president of Local 3030 with AFSCME, representing many of the bus operators here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Under AFSCME, we represent a whole lot of different entities. We went through a lot of things. We just increased the city parish workers in East Baton Rouge with a raise. As you just heard, Ms. Woolfolk, that's the sentiments of the majority of your bus operators, you know, because they're trying to survive out here. And that's what it's about. It's not trying to get rich. You can't get rich being a bus operator. But you can work together with your school board and get a respectable salary. We look at the value of what was given on the chart, and there was a lot of information on the chart, and there was a lot of disclosure on the chart when it came down to peer group A, peer group B, and the differences within that. Peer group B, as I've identified myself, was Iberville Parish. All right, $39 an hour. Even though they only work 4.5 hours, but they're being, if one of our operators go over there and want to, you know, be hired with them, they're being told they're going to make 6.5 to 7 hours. And that's a significant difference in pay, take-home pay. Now, this proposal that you have suggested, it brings in roughly about $50 a week difference in pay. And that's okay, but with the economy being what it is, they still gonna have to do what they have to do. They still gonna have to work 2-3 jobs in order to feed their families. I mean, I give you all the respect in the world for what y'all have done or proposed to do for the teachers, because that's significant. $6,000 is significant, you know, and no, it's not too much, because our teachers deserve that. But you deserve just as much respect too, because you're the caretakers that's bringing these kids, these same kids that you said that you want this new superintendent with Brett to have his child in this community that's probably gonna ride one of these buses. All I'm just asking that you look, it might not be this year, but I will say this. You shouldn't change the hours, because if you wouldn't change the hours, guess what? Their pay will be $250 a week better. So I don't know what was it that made you determine to change the hours, because I'm sure that they deserve that. You know, and some may only be working 4 hours, and that's something that you have to, you know, figure out which one's worth the 4 and which one's worth the 8. You know, but those who are already being compensated for the 8, I beg to differ, to reduce their hours, you know, and just have a camouflage, I must say camouflage like they're making more money, but you're not really making more money. So in summary, I think that East Baton Rouge Parish will have the ability to gain better teachers, but have the essential supporting staff being lost to this parish due to competitive parishes that's offering much more. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are some online comments. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 comments online, 2 in support and 2 against for item C1 for the 2026-2027 proposed budgets. Now we have board comments, and we have Ms. Sule.
Thanks. Superintendent Cole, thank you for the presentation. Thank your team. This is my third budget presentation, and it was the clearest I've heard since I've been on the board. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Also, I really liked that you also took it to social media for people that maybe couldn't have made any of the meetings or shared comments. They could comment there. I appreciated that. And I appreciate you addressing the rumors and being transparent. There was one slide that I was kind of having trouble understanding. That was on page 15, the highlights of the proposed changes, the background on the funds this district spends. Can you just explain that chart to me?
So what the chart highlights is the areas where the district spends money on those particular areas, right? So on the regular ed population, we spend 12.9 million. On the ESS student, we spend about 4.3 in terms of the amount of money. Go ahead, Kelly.
So it's the changes.
Right, the increase.
It's the changes. So it's what it does is it tells you where the changes are between the revised budget and the proposed budget. So if you wanted to know, Kelly, what was the difference in regular ed between the 2 years? Well, you can look at this and go, it was $12.9 million. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the significant raises is because that's where your teachers are. And so that's the biggest raise. Whereas in other areas, there are some lowers, like the appropriations is a little bit lower. While we have higher charter schools, and we don't no longer have the state stipends, we do have the $4.2 million that we're using for the stipends for the new programs. As you can see, our facilities is down a little bit. Business remains about the same. Administration is down a little bit. So the biggest growth that you have between revised and proposed is your teachers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You got that?
I think so.
Mr. Godey.
Thank you. When I joined this board almost 10 years ago, my hair wasn't quite as gray, but three of the major areas I wanted to try to focus on was to in order to bring this district into the 21st century was revising and replacing all of our computer systems to make them talk to each other, to totally revise the way we presented our budget, because at that time we had special funds and general funds and never the twain shall meet, and it was only with a one-year focus with very, very little information to make jumps from one to the other. And the last focus that I had was empty classrooms where we didn't have enough teachers. And to me, the biggest, and I can happily say we have made tremendous progress in all three of those areas. We haven't quite got there yet with all of the city suite, but it's moving. This budget presentation by far is the best we've ever had. And to me, and I know I have a financial background, but to me it was the clearest. Maybe not to everyone else, but I understood everything that was in there. And then I think back, though, to when I look at Ms. Jones, and I remember asking about teacher retention, and we didn't even track teacher retention. She had to have her staff go make up a program to look at employment records to try to back calculate how many teachers we lost in the first 5 years, and I don't remember the number, but it was something like 80%. It was a huge number. And then you look at the salary schedules and how those match up, and it was pretty obvious as to why. Because our salary schedule was so back-end loaded, and you say 0 to 10 is 0 to 20 is where we were really losing the people through all of that. So to me, like you said, look, there's no way any salary schedule is going to make everybody happy. It just will not do it. There's just no way to be able to do that. But thanks to Lean Frog and Chastity's help through all of this, we spent many hours on the phone working through these. I think this is something that corrects or updates, I think it's like 25 years worth of patches and fixes and things that didn't mesh with each other at all. And it is a huge, huge improvement. And the biggest improvement I hope will come is that we won't have 90-something classroom teacher vacancies as we go into next year, that we can attract teachers from other areas. We can keep the teachers we have, because that was the biggest problem we had, in my opinion. We get teachers in here for 1, 2, 3 years, give them some experience, they learn what they're doing, and they go somewhere else. So hopefully we can provide them with a path forward and a salary progression that really makes all of that work. I hope it can. And I just want to address, because, you know, we've talked a lot about bus drivers and things like that. If you look at the daily rate, the bus drivers will be getting a pay raise, and it's going to vary depending on how many years experience you have. But the more experience you have under this new system, you can get more than you got under the old system. And for those who do work 8 hours a day, they can be going from $113.60 a day to $164 a day. So if you do work 8 hours a day, you're going to be making a heck of a lot more money. That's the numbers, ma'am. And so if you really do work 8 hours a day, you're going to get paid for that. So if you take the extra time and do the extra things, you will be getting paid for that. And that's at the starting salary level. For those who are above that, because I think we're talking about some people $2 and $3 above. On the new schedule, if you were $2 and $3 above, you can probably be $4 and $5 above on the new schedule. You'll be making even more than that. So is it what everybody, you know, wants? No, it's not what everybody wants, but it's an improvement from where we are. It's what we're trying to get to. And the biggest thing is a child can't learn if there's not a teacher in the classroom teaching them. And what we can do, ma'am, I'm sorry, what we can do is if we can get teachers in those classrooms, that is going to be a long, long way to improving our academic performance. That is, to me, the biggest key we can do, and everybody's getting something out of this. It may not be what everybody wants. I realize there's a few teachers and a few people who might be at the upper end of the levels. They're not getting cut. They're going to be getting what they got before, but what they were getting before, from what we can tell, was adequate. But everyone else will be getting a pay raise of some sort, of some amount. A lot of teachers, I think I saw the average teacher pay raise was going to be like $7,000. That is significant. We can't forget that. We can't.
It was 9,000.
9,000? $9,000 on the average, excuse me. That is going to be a significant difference to the lives of those teachers and their families. And to me, this is an investment we need to make. I fully agree, looking at the long-term outlook, that this is a sustainable budget. I know there's been some things in the past, oh, we can't do this because it's not sustainable. I can't tell you if an atomic bomb's going to drop on us tomorrow. I don't know, but as best I can tell, this budget's going to be sustainable. And all the analysis I can run on it says it's going to be sustainable. So I compliment you and your staff. I compliment Lean Frog and all those who work. And, you know, I just wish the best for all of us to get on with this and do this. Again, it's not what everybody wants, but it's a big, huge, more than a step. It's a leap in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gode. Mr. Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Cole, and to all your staff for the hard work that you've put into this budget. Lean Frog as well for the excellent job that you have done in helping us pull the ball of yarn apart, if you will. I think that the steps that are proposed in our salary schedules are sorely needed and will be a huge improvement across the board for our staff in honoring the work that they do and ensuring fair compensation, in placing our school system as a competitive employer for the best teachers that we can hire, as well as the best support staff that we can hire. And I want to thank all the staff and everyone that came out and have offered your feedback. Your board and your superintendent do hear your concerns, and I think it is very tricky to do everything that we would like to do as a board. This is our fourth budget cycle for some of us, maybe the 20th for Mike. I'm not keeping track. I won't pick on Mark, but we've tried to make very targeted investments in our staff, but I recalled that the day I was sworn into this job, I was asked, and I promised that we would make employee compensation a priority, and we've tried very hard to do that. But I think this is the step that we've been looking for as a board to properly address compensation in our school system, and it is scary, and it is a bit, irksome to tap into our savings account, if you will, but we can't just keep socking away money as a system when we have investments that we know will impact the future of our children. I know that we're going to invest a lot in some special programs this year that I hope we will see some excellent results from. And I'm excited to do that because one of the other things that I care a lot about is making sure kids learn how to read. It's something that hasn't always been at the focus when it should have been on this board or in this school system. And I'm proud to see us try to make those investments. One of the things that I think we have an opportunity to do here, especially as we are kind of leveling out what our teacher salary schedules look like in the future as a board, because we can offer these opportunities and these raises now, but there's always going to be another year, and there's always going to be another challenge of we have to stay competitively paying our staff. And I want us, as we look forward into the future of that, to think about not only what we're paying, but how we're paying our most effective teachers. We've done some things in the past couple budget cycles where we offered incentives and rewards for effective teaching, for growing students, for working in some of our highest need schools. And all those are things that I think we need to look at long-term and not just as special programs as we look at how we retain the most effective teachers, because what I'd love to see for our superintendent in the future is an understanding of are our most tenured teachers also our most effective? In many cases, they probably are. In some cases, they may not be. How do we show up for those most effective teachers and make sure we retain those and we reward them for growing our children? So those are some of the opportunities I think we have that we can look at in the future that I would love to see as a board member, because just keeping it flat about how many years have you worked as a teacher, I think doesn't move the needle for every teacher. Especially because you have a lot of teachers, I want to say most teachers are doing well above and beyond what the job description is. And so when they are growing our students and they're working in our highest need areas, I want to make sure that we're showing up for them. So all that being said, thank you for bringing this budget to us. I'll have more questions for you, I'm sure, later, but for now, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Russ. Mr. Martin.
Thank you. I was thinking back on my tenure at the board, and I'm grateful for how far we've come. A lot of the points that Mr. Godet made, the cityscape, the many things, I'm grateful that we're talking about exactly how much more to pay our bus drivers or how to make them better. We are paying our teachers a lot more rather than having meetings till 1 o'clock in the morning because transportation system is simply not working. So I commend the superintendent and all the staff for just how far we've come. I think that also, for better or for worse, gives us the ability to ask more important questions and deeper questions. So, and I don't particularly need this addressed tonight, but as we move forward through the budget process, I think one area that wasn't covered in the presentation tonight is the impact of this budget on the Prop 3 surplus. which, as I understand it, is going to be drawn down fairly significantly. And I don't believe the Prop 3 budget shows in our budget documents and our, in our separate fund balance. So I'd like to make sure going forward that we address that. If Ms. Lopez would like to give a quick and dirty answer on that,
Yes.
please
So
do.
if you look at your budget and the special revenues, Proposition 3 is there. And yes, we are drawing down a significant amount of that money. Now, next year, we may have to adjust the percentage between general fund and Proposition 3 because you got to make it work. You can't burn all the money. But if you do look in your packet in the budget, it is absolutely in there.
Okay, and so this is going to, in short numbers, how much is this going to draw down the Prop 3 budget this year?
We're going to go down to about $3.5 to $4 million in fund
We're going to draw
balance.
it, we're going to reduce it by, or we're going to go down?
We're
and
going to
that's
go
be-
down to that point.
How much is in there now?
We're increasing it by about $15 million. Okay. So it's about $20 million. We're dropping it down significantly.
Okay.
This is
All
going
right.
to pull it down.
And so if, hopefully the revenues will, our revenues, which as they have historically, will grow, our tax revenues, and so we'll be able to fund next year's continuation of this raise through that increased revenue growth. We may have to take a little more out of our fund balance, but we have plenty of fund balance to runway with.
We do, and this is going to be the big year. So this is the big year where everyone gets adjusted. But next year you level off. So it's not going to be as significant because you start leveling off, and you know that 1%, you just have the 1%. So you know where you're going after that. And again, we may have to adjust the percentage, but we can do that.
Okay. No, I agree. I certainly agree with the approach. And, as Mr. Godet said, we have hesitated, all of us on the board, for the past several years because, how can we be sure and whatnot. But as several of us pointed out, we were leaving money on the table in the past that we should be using and putting into the classroom. So I applaud and I support that. I do want to talk about the bus driver situation for a minute from a couple of perspectives. One, the last couple of years, when we gave a smaller raise for everybody last year, I think it was?
The stipend.
Yeah. One of the discussions that we talked about was making sure that everybody was actually going to take home more money, right? And that it was a real raise, not just converting the stipend to a permanent raise, which itself is significant, goes into retirement and all that. But we also wanted to make sure that everybody was taking home more money. And what I hear the bus drivers saying tonight is they're not sure with the shift in hours whether they're actually going to be taking more money home. And so I understand that. I'd like to see some quantifiable numbers on that going forward.
Yeah, we'll bring that next week.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think, because here's the other thing, and this is a little personal to me, because when I was a teenager, one of the people who was a real mentor in my life, very significant, was a woman named Carol Whitesell, who I discovered when I joined the board was a very long time bus driver for this district, only retired a couple of years ago. And so if I did anything affecting bus drivers, I got a call. I got somebody reaching out to me because, and I've said this every time the budget comes up, every time we've talked about pay raise for the support staff, as we use the term, all of our employees, bus drivers in particular, they're really educators. They deal with our students every day. The bus drivers deal with our students often, I think, probably when they're at their worst, when they're waking up early in the morning, cranky coming to school. And they have to drive a bus, not get in accidents, keep the kids safe, and deal with the behavior problems that occur on the bus when they're on the way. And they have to do that single-handedly, looking in the rearview mirror. And so, and I know that we have some tremendous bus drivers who do exceptionally well as educators during the period that they have our students in their care. So they're very important to me, and I would like that information. I want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we make these decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
Again, Ms. Cole, I want to echo what everyone else has said. Thank you for the great job you and Ms. Lopez and the entire team have done. Now I hadn't been up here as long as Mike, and definitely not as long as Mark. But from day one, when I was sworn in and I took my seat up here, Nathan, I've talked about equitable resources across the board for all of our children. I've also been on record numerous times stating that great teachers make great students. You can't have one without the other. And Nathan, and when we all joined this board, I think a lot of us had grand ideas about things we were going to do and things we wanted to accomplish. But one thing that I realized, kind of quick, fast, in a hurry, is that when things have been systematically done and systematically put in place, they have to be systematically undone to get where you want to go. And what we've done the last couple of years, we've started to break down some of those walls, and we've put things in place systematically that were going to make us better. I don't know how much of that was really part of the history or the DNA of this body. Because, Mike, I sit out there in those same chairs for almost the 10 years you were on the board, and I watched you fight for some of the things that you just talked about up here. At one time when I looked at this body, I thought it was organized chaos, because there was always something, and it never seemed to drill down and get to the people that were the most important, and that was the children. That was the children. Now, we all know that equity at a school in District 5 may not look like equity in a school in the District 4. But Mr. Cole and his staff, we're trying to create equity. We're trying to make sure that the kids at a high C school or low C school and a kid at a high D or low D or F have what they need to get up there. It may not look like what the kid at the C school has, but it's still equity. It's equitable. And we've got to have teachers in place. Now, here's the thing. We've got to have teachers in place who understand that, and I think we do. But one thing about it, if you want to become a great teacher, you got to put the work in too. I could pay you $57,000, $58,000, $59,000, $109,000 a year. If you don't want to be a great teacher, you're not going to be one. I don't care how much money I pay you. I don't care how much money I pay you. And in the world I grew up in, the professional world I grew up in, if you don't perform, you go home. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. You go home. And Mr. Cole and I, we've had that conversation, and Mr. Cole's like, well, Mr. Lewis, you can't, you got to kind of do it a little bit differently. But the bottom line is, if you don't perform, you go home. If what you're doing is harming children, I don't want you in the classrooms. No one goes into education to get rich. My mother taught school for 34 years. I can take you to Alabama and take you to 2 cemeteries and show you about 10 generations in the ground, and they were all school educators. And none of them got rich. But they had a very fulfilled life because they saw the fruits of their labor every other day. When children came up to them and thanked them for what they did when they taught them, when they were 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. High school, college. We're on the right track, and I've talked about this being a 21st century school district numerous times. We're on our way. Even though we're 26 years in, we're on our way to becoming a progressive school district. And along the way, there's going to have to be a paradigm shift. There's going to have to be a mind shift in how we do business and how business should be done. You can't walk in one direction and look over your shoulder. And I've said this before, you can't drive forward with your eyes in the rearview mirror. We're driving this district forward. I know y'all have to do it. I mean, bus drivers. I know y'all have to do it. Y'all need eyes in the back of y'all head. But what I'm saying is that we're on the right track to move this district forward. Am I happy with the budget? I'm not happy with everything in it, but I understand that it's what we have to do. It's what we got to do. I wish we could give everybody tons of money, but we just can't. But let's move forward. Thank you. I know I'm 47 seconds over. Okay, but I'm getting callers not here. That's why I was able to go over. But thank you, Mr. Cole, again.
Thank you, Coach. And so I'm just going to say a few little things, not going to carry out too much long. I agree with a lot of the sentiments that some of my colleagues have expressed this evening. And I also want to thank Superintendent Cole and his staff, as well as Mr. Gode, because of course this project started about a year ago in really get into the depths, of course, and with Chastity. And so I am happy with where we are, and I'm happy with the direction that we're going in. And so I want to commend them, thank them, and as Coach and some of my other colleagues said, this is just the start, and we're moving forward. It may not be what we want now, but we are progressing, and we're going to get to a space where everybody's going to be happy. And so give us an opportunity to do that, and give us an opportunity to make you happier than what you are or the space that you're in right now. And so with that being said, this concludes our meeting. You got something to say? This concludes our meeting, and we're going to convene our regular meeting in 3 minutes. Yeah.
Board members, please log into the committee of the whole meeting.
Good evening. Welcome back for part 2. Tonight's invocation. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Tonight's invocation will be led by Board Member Michael Goday and the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Russ. Stand, please.
Please stand. Our Heavenly Father, please grant us your wisdom as we try to navigate through these times, always keeping in mind what is best for our students, our employees, and our community. And as we go into the summer season, let us not only refresh our minds and our bodies, but do it safely so that we all may return in August ready to do the job at hand. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance
to
the flag
Madam Secretary, have a roll call, please.
District 4, President Stewart.
Present.
District 5, Vice President Lewis.
Present.
District 1, Mr. Blue.
Here.
District 2, Mr. Lannis. District 3, Ms. Powell Lewis. District 6, Mr. Russ.
Present.
District 7, Mr. Goday.
here.
District 8, Ms. Sule.
Here.
District 9, Mr. Martin.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item B is information only, fiscal transparency report. Moving right along, item C, items for consideration. The 2026-2027, consideration of the request for the approval of the proposed 2026-2027 general fund and special revenue budgets, the budget resolution, and the 26-27 salary schedules. Is it, yeah, do we have any public?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
First comment is Ms. Valencia Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valencia Johnson, and I'm the president of the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators. Tonight, the three recognized teacher representative groups presidents publicly affirm our support for the proposed budget, including investments in educator and support staff raises. This unified position reflects the intentional collaboration that has occurred among our groups, the school board, and consistent monthly meetings with the superintendent and the cabinet focused on ensuring that all employees who support our students are valued and appreciated. Additionally, this position has been informed by direct conversations with EBR finance team to verify the accuracy of the proposal. We want to be clear that no employee's pay will be decreased under the proposed budget. We recognize that there may be misinformation circling around, and that we encourage all stakeholders to seek information from reliable and verified sources. Representatives from all departments are available and committed to supporting employees, answering questions, and ensuring transparency through this process. This work reflects a shared commitment to taking care of the people who make our system successful, and we will continue to partner with the cabinet to advance these priorities with purpose and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, is it Kanita Sims? I'm sorry, I may not be pronouncing it correct. Ms. Sims.
Hello, my name is Candida Bologna Sims, and I'm Vice President of the East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators, also an employee and a teacher in East Baton Rouge Parish. So I want to say definitely looking at the pay schedule, definitely I support it, it's definitely significant. When I first started teaching, I taught in a system for 10 years and I came to EBR because of pay. So I want to let you know that is a bearing on, and it's a choice of why teachers move from system to system, because that's the reason why I came to EBR. And so now that I see, a significant increase in my pay, now things that and people haven't been able to do before, they'll be able to do. Maybe thinking about buying a house, doing things like that. So when you were living paycheck to paycheck, but now you see the significant, increase and you're like, oh my gosh, it's later in life, but now it seems like it's possible. Also, I've talked to other people in the same thing, they won't have to do a second job, and things like that. So definitely in support of this and see the benefits of it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next we have Storm Matthews.
Pick up where I left off earlier. I still have questions about what happens to people who are on step 40 going down to step 35, and like what that means for them. And again, I do not think that anything, especially with the executive secretaries, is nefarious or in any kind of way. And possibly just a calculation error or a wrong number put in, and I'm sure it's an easy fix. But again, I believe the intent is from a good place, but this is why we check everything, and having those community meetings is very important. Another major point of confusion for this current year is under curriculum support that was coded as a UR 209, which is the same as registered nurses, which it makes a lot of sense for people to not be registered, or for curriculum support to not be the same as registered nurses, but there's no real explanation as to what they're moving to. If you look under teachers now, and you see that that's where they are now, but it doesn't tell you that. You just have to look under every single one and see that that's where they are. If you're looking for UR 209, that's the registered nurses by themselves. So there's no clear thing. It would be helpful if possibly there was a list of discontinued salary schedules. And it also doesn't really show like it's hard to tell what they would be making. And I'm curious as to how many board members have looked at each of their schools to see how many staff members their schools are being allotted. That is an important part of the staffing of your duty as a board member, not who is at each school, because that is solely the superintendent, but how many staff members are allotted at each campus, because it's not, I'm just curious as to how many people have done that. I think that for the teachers, it's amazing. It's amazing. Mine is very, very high, because even as a step 21 in my 20th year, I'm still lower than the new starting teacher is going to be. But I'm not just for me. I'm not just for a teacher. I stand for every single educator in this district. I stand for all the people, everybody who touches a child, not just myself. So it don't matter that my raise is $14,000. I don't give a darn about that. I care about the bus driver, the secretaries, the clerks, everybody in between. So those people need to be fixed as well. Thank you.
Danny Altazan. Hey, Danny.
All right, good afternoon, board members. It's been a while since I've seen you guys in this body. As a parent with 3 students in our school district, varying all ages across the district, I have a significant vested interest in understanding how you all make your decisions and how this district is governed. In the budget guide notes, it stated that earlier this spring, the board sought community involvement through focus groups, social media outreach, and community conversations on the budget. And I want to address that because I attended a community conversation on last year's budget in the spring of 2025 with the intent of coming in and offering constructive, innovative ideas that I had researched that were being utilized successfully out of state and were seeing really promising results. However, I was concerned when I showed up to find out that it was more of a predetermined set of priorities that the community was merely asked to rank. This approach felt more like a check the box kind of a meeting instead of a genuine request for open dialogue. I have similar reservations regarding this year's engagement methods. Relying on social media algorithms, small advisory boards may not truly capture a representative cross-section of our district's needs. Without transparent data on focus group participation levels and demographic representation, it's difficult to ensure that every school's concerns are being met and weighed. If the budget process is marketed as being transparent, it must authentically involve representation from across the entire district to maintain the public trust that is necessary for any future millage renewals that will come up. The public buy-in has to be there. Regarding the budget itself, I do appreciate the inclusion of the competitive starting salaries and the pay raises. However, I am concerned about the long-term sustainability as well from here on out, and to ensure that no veteran employee will ever feel like they are facing a reduction in pay when their experience and loyalty is taken into account. And finally, I strongly support the investments from into early childhood education. I'm particularly interested in the results of the pilot program that you all are going to run in your elementary schools regarding the new staffing approaches and their impact on the literacy and financial learning as well. I have similar feelings to Mr. Russ there. I recently observed last year, the year before, the significant pressure that was placed on both our students and our teachers when DIBELS testing is happening, as well as the first year of LEAP testing taking place. At the same time, and I know that any initiative that we can have and find to identify and address the weak spots early in the process would be of immense value to our district.
Thank you. Next, we have Kirk, is it Green? Okay.
First, yes, I am a teacher at one of your schools. Been there going on 15, going on 16 years. Before that, I did teach at 2 different charter schools. Mr. Ballou, you are my representative. Thank you for years of service. My daughter graduated from EBR. She is now graduating with honors from architecture at LSU. So yes, I have been involved as a parent and a teacher in this district. And some of us count our time in years. Some of us count them in number of superintendents that have made promises to us. Now, we've been through 4 or 5, and we've heard the same rhetoric. You have delivered. Thank you for that. First of all, this week alone, I've talked to 2 teachers. I've showed them the new schedule, showed them the old schedule. 2 quality teachers said, I will hold off going to another district. Let me see what this board is going to do. Let me see what's going to happen. It's already having an immediate impact on retention. Already. When you want to keep quality teachers, you pay them as professionals. If you look across the planet, every very successful education system pays their teachers and treats them as professionals. Those are the hallmarks of every single successful system, and I'm glad to see that you are seeing that and starting to anchor that in ours too. Also, the early childhood education, absolutely necessary. They need that foundation. You cannot put a roof on a house if it has no foundation built for it yet. We have to get them early. We have to get them involved early. Those programs are quintessential for when they get to me in 7th grade. They need to be able, because we're reading the Declaration of Independence. We're reading Thomas Jefferson. You know, we're reading text that they need to be able to understand at a higher level. We cannot do that if y'all do not put the resources into that early childhood education. So I like what I'm seeing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Are there any other public comments or anyone that I missed?
Okay.
With that being said, that concludes our public comments, and I'm in the queue, and so I want to do a motion to approve this item.
Motion to approve by Ms. Stewart. Can I get a second? Mr. Martin? Yeah, Mr. Martin. Get voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote.
We good?
It came up though.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there. Y'all can? Okay. No, you can hit the high to vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving right along. Oversight Committee, Semi-Annual Financial Tax Plan Update. Consideration of a request for the approval of the Semi-Annual Financial Tax Plan Update in the 25-26 revised budgets for Propositions 1, 2, and 3. Any?
Yeah, I got public comment, Sarah Matthews, Storm Matthews. Is that 2? Yeah, that's 2. On two?
Wait a second. Ms. Matthews? No, ma'am. No, Ms. Matthews, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, Ms. Matthews. No, ma'am. We're not gonna have it. We're not gonna have it. I'm just. Okay, thank you. We're not gonna have it. We're not gonna have it. I'm not gonna, don't comment. I'm not gonna have it. Okay. No. Moving right along, in board comments.
Yes, is someone here from CSRS? No, sir. Okay, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, particularly with some of the events recently. The actual site clearing work, I understand, has started at the new elementary school off of Perkins Road. That's correct?
Yes.
So the actual site clearing work has started, and the bid for the architect for the new high school off of Segan Lane has also been released, and we're just waiting on selection of the architect and construction company. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to have that into the record so people would know that we are moving on those items. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion? And I second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gode, second by Ms. Stewart. Voice vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay. Aye. The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Okay, item 3, advertising for bids, 2627. Consideration of a request to authorize staff to advertise, receive, and award bids for materials, equipment, supplies, and services through June 30th, 2027, to the lowest responsible bidder proposal, meeting specifications and all state and federal requirements for quotes and formal invitations to bid. Are there no public comments? Board comments? None? Motion?
I motion to approve.
Second by Ms. Sule. Voice vote, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it again.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Number 4 under C, advertising in official journal, 2627. Consideration of a request for the approval to select the Advocate as the official journal newspaper advertising of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System for the fiscal year 26-27. Any public comments? No online comments. Board comments. Motion to approve by Mr. Russ, second by Ms. Sule. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Item 5, 2026-2027 Property and Casualty Insurance Program Policies. Consideration of a request to authorize the administration to approve the most cost-effective property and casualty insurance program policy renewal package for the East Baton Rouge Parish system of the 26-27 fiscal year and to provide for related matters. Any public comment? Board comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gode is in the queue.
Yes, before I make a motion on this, I had requested of staff to work with our insurance vendors.
I just sent it to y'all.
We emailed it to you.
I did not see it.
While we were here.
I did it.
Yeah.
Oh, while we were
They got
here.
it to us.
Well,
late.
I'm sitting here paying attention to the meeting, not looking at my email.
My apologies.
And I am not shopping, I promise. I am trying to do this. So I will read the email, but I'd like to read the email before we vote.
We'll come back to that. Moving right along. 6. We can't do that?
Well, Ms. Lewis, I would suggest you.
I'm reading it
Oh,
right
he's
now.
reading. Mike's a speed reader. It won't take long.
Can I have a moment of personal privilege while we're waiting? I just want to recognize my mother in the audience, Kay Martin. She's also an educator of long standing, and appreciate her being here. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. So now that I've gotten to read the thing, unfortunately, it didn't show what the anticipated was for 2026, but I will go ahead and make the motion to approve. And we'll get that because it'll come back at the regular meeting. So I will make the motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Gode, second by Ms. Stewart. Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes are on a roll tonight.
Please vote.
Item 6.
Wait, Coach.
Oh, we know it's gonna pass.
That's because we see it on our screen, April, that's why. Because it shows us that it's,
Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, is yours. Motion carries.
Okay, resolution, number 6. Resolution, reject uninsured motorist coverage. Consideration of a request for the approval of the attached resolution authorizing the board president and superintendent to execute and sign all documents to reject uninsured motorist coverage in connection with the East Baton Rouge Parish School System's automobile liability coverage and its self-insured retention program for the 25-26 fiscal year. Any public comments? Board comments?
I have motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Stewart, second by Ms. Sule. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you. RFP, Assessment Platform. Consideration of a request to accept the recommendations of the RFP Selection Committee to select OTUS LLC to implement an assessment platform, and authorize the superintendent and staff to execute a contract for products and services. Funding source, general fund. Any public comments? Okay. Motion to approve by Mr. Martin, second by Ms. Sule. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote.
Number 8 under C.
Motion
Grant.
carries.
Okay. Grants, early childhood. Consideration of request for the approval of the following 26-27 early childhood grants. A, Cecil J. Picard, Early Childhood Program, LA4, in the amount of $7,705,980 for high-quality pre-K instruction. Ready Start Network, in the amount of $100,000 to support Ready Start Network requirements. C, Birth to 5 Pre-K Development Grant, in the amount of $342,288 to support the implementation of early childhood community strategies. D, Early Childhood Education Fund Grant, in the amount of $1,053,365,000 to provide tuition assistance from birth to 3. E, Community Network Lead Agency, in the amount of $373,143 to ensure operational requirements. Can I get a, yeah. Can I get, is there any public comments?
No.
Any board comments?
I do a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Stewart, second by Mr. Martin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Moving right along. Number 9, Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, Early Childhood. Consideration of a request for the approval of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, lead agency, and the following. South Baton Rouge Charter Academy in the amount of $334,800. Impact Charter School in the amount of $111,600. Kenilworth Science and Technology Academy in the amount of $111,600. Helix Aviation Academy in the amount of $111,600. Kaleidoscope in the amount of $55,800. Greater Bridge Academy in the amount of $83,700. Just Us Childcare of Baton Rouge in the amount of $83,700. Little Dreamers Christian Academy in the amount of $55,800. God's Little Angels Daycare Development Center in the amount of $55,800 to expand early childhood seats. Funding source, Cecil J. Picard, LA4 grant. Are there any public comments? No. I see Ms. Sule is in the queue.
Yes, board, I just wanted to share with y'all that I did a little research, deep dive into this week because I wanted to make sure that these companies that we're partnering with are offering excellent early childhood, as I know that's one of our initiatives and also one of LDOE's initiatives. And so I talked with Ms. Thompson some this week about them, and almost all of them are high proficient, excellent services. There was one that dropped a little bit last year, but they had good reasoning for why that happened and had brought the scores up before the end of the year. And then 2 of them, they will be brand new early childhood centers this year. So we'll just kind of have to see how those do. But I appreciated the team's work to make sure that we were only offering this grant money through our Memorandum of Understanding to centers that were doing the work and doing it well. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, that's kind of where we're at with those early childhood centers.
Mr. Gode.
Yes, is Ms. Williams here? Yes, could you? I have just a process question. I'm all for this. I'm not doing anything, but a couple of these schools are type 2 charters, and one of them in particular, I think the Helix, is really the Baker school that Helix has taken over. For instance, for Helix in Baker, why isn't the Baker School District doing this? Why is it us doing this? And how does the money flow? Just for understanding.
Thank you.
You can pull it down for you.
It was way up. Good evening, board members. And I do have the Helix representatives here as well. But we are a part of the city of Baker. They're a part of our network. So about 10 years ago, we agreed with the LDOE that we will put Baker as a part of our early childhood network. So we inherited those school systems and the charter schools that are there as well.
And so when we do these grants, could the grants come to us from LDOE to the network?
Yes, through
and
the CECL grant.
So if they have, let's take Kenilworth, for instance. If Kenilworth has a 3-year-old child that's not from EBR because they're a type 2 charter, are we still putting up the money for that, or how does that work?
Great question. The pre-K 3-year-olds, we don't take any seats for 3-year-olds through that CECL
Okay, 4-year-olds.
4-year-olds, yes. So what the LDOE states is that in order for us to expand early childhood seats, that we have to offer it to those surrounding charter schools. And so what they do, they don't give us any parameters. So we said, hey, let's put out an application. And in that application, we have to see financially, because these are reimbursable funds, they have to have the finances up front and then be reimbursed per pupil allocation. So then what we do is we kind of look to see if they have a literacy coach in place. Also, if they have, they can take attendance and assure us that they'll have 74% attendance rate. And so what we do is we look through all of those things and then we make a decision based on a rubric.
Not trying to be particular here, but say Kenilworth has a 4-year-old child from West Baton Rouge Parish. Is our money going to that child?
No, sir. No, sir. They have to be in the attendance zone.
Okay. That's what I just wanted to ask.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Okay, thank you.
I moved.
I second.
Thank you.
Motion by Ms. Gode, approved by Ms. Sule. Item 10. I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Contract renewals. Baton Rouge Speech and Hearing Foundation doing business as the Emerge Center Incorporated. Consideration of a request for the approval to renew a professional service contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the Baton Rouge Speech and Hearing Foundation doing business as the Emerge Center Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $250,000 to provide speech, language, and occupational therapy. Are there any? No public comments? No. Okay, Mr. Gode moves to approve. I second. Can I second? No, you can't. Oh, golly. Okay.
I think somebody raised their hand.
Patrick, Mr. Martin, I was trying to beat him to the punch. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Gode, motion, and Mr. Martin, second.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Moving right along, Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, Junior Achievement. Consideration of a request for the approval of a Memorandum of Understanding between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and Junior Achievement of Greater Baton Rouge in the amount of $120,000 to provide support services for students. Any public comments? No public comments or online comments? Mr. Gode proudly motioned by Mr. Gode, proudly second by Ms. Stewart. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Professional services contracts, federal. Consideration of a request for the approval of the professional service contracts between East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following: English learners engaged in the amount of $199,500 to provide professional development to teachers, school leaders, and support staff serving English learners in urgent intervention schools. Funding source redesign. Is there any public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, gotta read them all. B, Survey, is that? Okay, my French is not good. Survey Learning Company in the amount of $55,500 to provide professional development to teachers and school leaders on high-quality instructional materials. My prospective grades 6 through 12. Funding source redesign. C, Great Minds in the amount of $56,250 to provide professional development to teachers and school leaders on the implementation of Eureka Math Squared. Funding source redesign. National Institute of Excellence in Teaching, NIET, in the amount of $499,250 to provide professional development and coaching to school leaders on TAP principles and high-quality curriculum strategies. Funding source, Title II. E, Everyday Labs Incorporated, in the amount of $146,651.79 to support student attendance. Funding source, Title IV. F, K-12 Insights, in the amount of $168,000 to create a cloud-based platform for parents and family communication. Funding source, Title I. G, Amplify, in the amount of $392,700 for the renewal of M-Class Intervention site license related to Dibbles assessment. Funding source, federal grants, general funds. Any public comments? No online comments, no board comments. Ms. Sule.
I just had I don't know if it's a question, but Superintendent Cole, would it be possible to hear back about how these are going to be like, if we've had them in the past, how many teachers were trained to use these professional development tools? I was looking through the FAQ and I saw how we plan to let teachers be trained in them. But what I want to know is how many teachers have actually been trained with these professional services.
You want me to share with you tonight, or you want me to get that information
You
to
can
you?
just get it to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
thank you.
All right.
I'm in the queue. Okay. Okay, Ms. Cole, quick question.
Yes, sir.
You know, I was extremely excited last year about K-12 Insights.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the QR codes in front of all our schools.
Mm-hmm.
Can somebody kind of give me a quick, I mean, how successful was it? What kind of numbers did we have? Impact? Because I thought, you know, I'm super excited about it. I think it's a great opportunity.
The engagement was tremendous, and K-12 Insights is coming to our ELT to do a full presentation. Not this week, but next week, because I wanted to know those end of the year numbers as well. And so I can get you exact numbers when they come, and I can have them send that to me so I can send it to you before they present to us. But the engagement was extremely good in terms of the online platform and in terms of the online chatbot being able to respond to the questions and concerns of those who engage with it. I think where we saw some challenges and some struggles is that oftentimes the technology in terms of phone lines and things of that nature would cross with K-12 Insights receiving the call from one of our families or someone in interest of any information in the school system, and then routing that phone call to an office where the phone could be answered. Sometimes they didn't have the correct information in terms of phone numbers, so the data may have showed a phone call wasn't answered. But what we started to realize and learn after doing further research is that the platform may have had the wrong information about where to route those numbers to. The online engagement was extremely high. Sometimes when a person would call and try to get to a live person, they would have the wrong information, so it would look as if though a call wasn't being answered. So they were sifting through that information to get me real numbers in real time of the thousands of individuals who engaged with the platform, and then the responses and the response time, and then how many calls were able to decrease as a result of that. I don't think Ms. Chapman is here. She's not here this evening, but I'll make sure she's here at the next meeting so she can provide that information for you. And then prior to that, we'll send you the numbers, and then she can talk about it.
Because we talk about customer service, that's 21st century customer service.
Yes, sir.
Emily, motion to approve, Ms. Soule?
And I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Stewart. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Number 13, professional service contracts, general fund. Consideration of a request for the approval of a professional service contract between the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board and the following. KME in the amount of $68,005 to support interactive collaborative learning across grade levels and content area. Renaissance Learning Incorporated, Nearpod, in the amount of $172,008.28 to provide K-12 supplemental curriculum platforms and associated educational tools and resources. BRIC, in the amount of $301,384 for students to participate in college and career readiness programs, funding source General Fund. Is there no public comments? No online comments? Ms. Soule, Mr. Martin?
Yes, I again, wait, was I first? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cami and Nearpod, I would like to know, I know we've been using Nearpod, I think it's at 8+ years. Cami, I'm not sure how long, is that new or have we been using that?
We've used it in the
I want
past.
to know how many teachers and students are actually using this program. It doesn't have to be tonight, but before our next board meeting. how many actually use it? How often is it actually used?
I got you.
And I saw Brick was here. How did it go this past year? Come on up. Tell me, how did it go?
It went very well, but I can be more specific than that if
Love
you
it.
want. So here's.
Thanks.
Yep. Yep. I'll just wait until. Oh. Is there enough for everybody? Okay, so this past year we had both an in-school ACT preparation program, which was run as a credit-bearing class, as well as an in-school advising program, which was focused on helping seniors make plans for life after high school. And so what you can see here is that there were 587 students that were participating in this program. 402 of those students self-selected into advising. So I think it's important to note that the 402 voted on their own to participate in an electively offered service in advising. The 185 students were actually enrolled in the ACT course. And so I just think it's very meaningful that 402 students on their own chose to be part of getting help for making their plans for life after high school. And if you can draw your attention to the bottom right of the first page where the numbers, where the big numbers are listed, you can see the ACT score gains of from the first baseline test and the second baseline test up 3.03 points and 3.47 points, which is pretty significant when your test is only out of 36 points. So that can be the difference in thousands of dollars of TOPS scholarship funding. Moving forward, we are going to be deepening our relationship with 4 schools in particular, which kind of emerged as particularly enthusiastic partners. And those are Estruma, Bel Air, Glen Oaks, and Northeast High School. These are schools where we have, we had great participation and a welcoming environment at all schools. But I would say that the school leaders and counselors at these schools in particular really were enthusiastic about deepening the partnership and having BRIC be a more permanent presence on the campus.
Yeah, you're still, Mr. Martin's still in the queue. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to express to the superintendent my appreciation that we're dealing with all these contracts now, which is 2 months before school starts, when the service is going to be delivered. In the past, we've often voted on these contracts in August or September or even October. And so I appreciate that you brought so many of these contracts well in advance. That makes it much better for us, much better for our partners who can now plan and budget and prepare to focus on providing the services to our students rather than wondering if they're going to have a contract this year or not. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, sir. I heard the board loud and clear.
Favor. Ms. Sule motion, Mr. Martin second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Please vote. Motion carries.
14, consideration of a request for the approval of policy GBB personnel positions. Are there any public comments? Online. Okay. Who's first? Okay, Mr. Goday.
I'd like to make the following motion. I move to the board that the board approve the revisions to policy GBB personnel positions as set forth in policy GBB revised. Secondly, direct the superintendent to provide to the board by January 15, 2027, a one-time report that describes the current state of the district's job titles and descriptions, including the number of outdated and unused positions, sets forth a plan and timeline to eliminate obsolete titles and bring all descriptions current, and identifies where and how the official record copy of job titles and descriptions will be maintained. And third, direct the superintendent to provide to the board by March 15, 2027, a recommendation for how this policy might be amended to provide the board an appropriate level of insight and oversight regarding job titles and descriptions during the annual budget cycle process. And that's, I so moved. And I, just so you know, I gave this to Ms. Armand before the meeting, so she's not trying to type this on the run.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, moved by Mr. Gode, second by Mr. Martin. All those in favor?
I'm still in the queue.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
You been in there all night?
No. I just real quick. I just wanted to say I was skeptical of this when it was first brought up last month. I looked into it. I greatly appreciate Mr. Gode working with me on the substance of this, and I think this is a very good move forward, and lets us set an example potentially for the rest of the state to follow. So thank you, Mike, for working with me on that. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The opposed? The ayes have it.
Please vote.
Shoni, you up.
Motion carries.
Item D, next meeting dates announcements, public hearing, board workshop, budget to be held on June 11th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Regular meeting to be held on June 11th, 2026 at 5 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Committee of the Whole meeting to be held on July 9th, 2026 at 5 p.m. in the Central Office Boardroom. Our meeting is adjourned.